All right, welcome to the Flex. This is the most talked about thing we're doing, the Retail Design Flex. Welcome, Brian Hawkins with Fixture Lab. Brian, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Oh my gosh, I look forward to this episode every month. We've got lots of retailers sending in photos and videos. The content is getting super dynamic. So if you're listening, when you get home, you're going to definitely want to head over to YouTube and you're going to want to watch today's watch today's episode, because there's lots of photos and slides and interactive stuff you're going to want to see and not just hear. Right, Brian?
Amen. You're going to definitely want to see this.
You are. All right. If you're listening and you're not aware of Fixture Lab, you haven't heard of Fixture Lab, get out from under that rock. Fixture Lab has been in bike shop design and merchandising for years. Brian Hawkins works with retailers across North America, helping them create solutions that are changing the way that their shop is running and really making a huge impact that's letting them position products, help their customers in a more dynamic way. They also make very cool retail store fixtures specific for the bicycle industry and other industries. So if you haven't heard of Fixture Lab, if you're not in tune to what they're doing, it's fixturelab.com. That's my little infomercial. I change it up every time, but you got to check it out. It's worth it. I see some money. Brian, what do you got? $20 bill?
I was just trying to hand
you. You're paying me? Paying me?
Yeah, the tip that I owe you for the recommendation there. That's a $20 bill right there.
The tip is for the retailers. Listen, this is a huge opportunity. What you're doing, you're volunteering your time, you're coming on our podcast, you're helping us help retailers firsthand. It's been awesome. It's really fun doing this, right?
Yeah. In fact, I hear people like stores will call and they feel very familiar with me because they've been listening. Like all the time, I hear people that call and say, I was just listening to your thing on the NVDA and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I say, well, that's all lies. Now let me tell you the truth.
Warning, if you get on the phone with Brian, you're going to be on for a while. He's really cool. Anyway, what we're doing is we're answering any questions you have. So the idea is you can write to us at design@nbda.com. That's design@nbda.com. Any questions you can write to us, like, should I use slat wall or grid wall? Should I add a coffee shop? What do I do with these electric bikes? They're getting heavier. My employees are weak. All these great questions. You can send us videos, photos, and I don't know how we decide really. We just decide if the questions are good, we'll answer. I mean, eventually we're probably going to answer everyone, right? Like we want
to we just kind of look at everything and sense the energy that's happening, and then like try to tune into that and see what's appropriate for these.
Yeah, we got to keep it appropriate, yeah. All right, so go ahead, submit your questions and your photos, design@nbda.com. Episode 6. This is just getting so much better every time. As I'm saying, things are rolling in. The retailers are asking to be enrolled in the Retailer Protection Program, and we're doing that. We've got people engaged. Today's special, right, Brian? I don't even know what's in store today.
Well, we're going to be in store today, so there you go.
What do you mean?
Well, we're going to be looking at a couple stores that have their own unique challenges, and they're so familiar to us all because we've been there.
I love it. All right. So listeners, we had 2 retailers reach out to us. And as Brian said, their questions fit really nicely together. These retailers also gave us photos, videos. They chatted with Brian. So we really got to know, and I say we, Brian, really got to know them deeply so we could give you a really great overview for today's podcast. So both stores have similar things going on. They've both been in their location for a long time. And like what happens after a long time is these small changes add up, and it just kind of changes the whole look and feel of the store. So we've got that happening. Both retailers are great people. They want to improve their game. I think one of them is in our P2 program. So their hearts are in the right place. they're both kind of stuck. I mean, we've been there, right? We just don't know what to do. We have limited time and we want to make the right choice. So it's like, oh my God, I don't want to go ahead and re-merchandise this whole section if it's going to take like a whole week and maybe not have a big impact. Both stores are like the same size, too much product, that sort of thing. And as I said earlier, as long as we put them in that retail protection program, we're not going to tell you who these stores are. They're comfortable with us talking about them. So that's the scoop. I think there's a lot of relatable things there. Brian, I think I'm going to let you kind of take it away from here. And I'm just going to be like the annoying retailer in the corner asking you questions.
Exactly. Because some retailers, so you can ask the tough questions that others would ask. And I've renamed the two stores today. One is Bill's Bike Heaven. How about that?
Okay.
Which bears no likeness to their actual name. And then I'm saying the second store is Spokes and Sprockets.
I love it. So we have Bill's Bike Heaven and Spokes and Sprockets.
Right. All right. So I'm going to begin to share my screen here. Whoop. It's not what I wanted to share. Hold on.
I just saw a big disclaimer and I got really nervous. I was like,
no, there is a big disclaimer. There is a big disclaimer coming.
Yeah,
I see what's happening. My little window is above where I could actually see it. There we go. Disclaimers. You see that?
I see it. Yes.
Okay, good.
Listening, go to YouTube so you can read this disclaimer too. We'll need some signatures.
Disclaimer number one is we've really only just started talking with these stores. So with more conversation, getting to see the store in person and understanding their situation, we could change some of the opinions that we have as we talk about this. Of course, this is just kind of a face value thing. They've sent us some great pictures and I've had some great conversation, but there's still a lot to learn always. Second one is for every recommendation that we might make today, we could find other stores that are successful and succeed doing just the opposite. So, sometimes it's the juxtaposition of what should happen versus what does happen that is kind of cool, that creates the energy that you need.
I really enjoy these disclaimers. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much. Store one, which is Bill's Bike Heaven, opened in '87. They're about 2,200 square feet of showroom space. And between the service area and the warehouse area is about 3,000, we think, something about like that.
Okay.
And these are comments that Helga sent me in the beginning of this. She said, I'm watching my customers come through the front door and pause like they're catching their bearings.
I've definitely seen that happen before.
Right? She says, I'm a little stuck on how to draw new customers in, as not as in getting them to the store, but getting them further into the store. Maybe the addition of more TV screens would be helpful. Okay. Note, view last month's podcast about screens in the store. Right, Heather?
I actually had a lot of retailers comment on that and actually are making changes based on that podcast. So definitely listen to the prior episode.
Okay. She also said we have a good culture of greeting people. Like we do a great job greeting people, and you'll see that the cash wrap area is right up in the front of the store, but there's still some physical barriers that they'd like help with. Okay, so this is our first look. We're going to look through the store just with a few pictures here, and then I'll circle back and talk about specific things. Okay, so we've all seen this store before, right? I mean, it's like, it feels familiar. You may not have seen this exact
Brian,
store.
where do you think my eyeballs are going right now?
Don't say it yet.
Okay.
Don't say it yet. Okay, so this is another view. Same store, obviously. Okay. There's a lot going on. You can tell that they're challenged with the amount of space that they have to hold the amount of product that they have.
When do I get to give like my thoughts?
You're going to get there. You're going to get there. I just want us to look at this with an open mind for a second here and take this in. Okay. I really have to note, neither of these retailers is doing a bad job at all. Like, I really applaud a lot of the stuff that they're doing. And I really applaud them reaching out for help to get over the hump to make it better than it is. Like not being satisfied with what we see here is the biggest part of the challenge, probably.
100%. I am
These
so.
guys are doing a great job.
Hmm. They have a
Okay,
lot of inventory. I mean,
right?
it's pretty dynamic.
Oh, another thing I should point out early on is you can see skis in the back there. So
Yeah.
they're doing, like many retailers do in the winter months, they're carrying ski gear and winter stuff. So the amount of apparel that we see in the store right now in these pictures is different than it would be in the summer. They pare it down in the summer and roll in more bikes, and they roll out some bikes and put in more apparel in the winter.
Yeah. And they probably just took in a bunch of this product too, because of the time of year right now, you know.
Okay,
All right.
so I'm not, I'm just keeping these photos in the same order. We're not like saying that this is the most important thing and the next thing is a little bit less important. I'm going to highlight things that I feel like we should be looking at. So one thing that struck me about the whole thing overall is the flat lighting.
Mm.
Um, there isn't anything that's really standing out here. Like we don't have the dynamic look of some really good spotlighting. What we have is a lot of these linear lights here that are raising the overall light level nicely, but nothing's feeling like sexy in here because the light isn't sexy. The light's just kind of flat,
Yeah.
as opposed to something like this kind of a thing, like a
Oh,
great retail store that has dramatic lighting. They've painted their ceiling dark. You can see spotlights. I think this image is actually faked, but it's a good example of what I'm talking about.
gosh.
Things are really nicely spotlighted, so the colors pop, and the product is the star, as opposed to what's happening in there.
I like that I haven't seen these photos until just right now. So if you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm getting these photos for the first time as well. I noticed that you've got some purple circles going on in this photo, but I'm also looking at like the orange and the blue, and I don't know if are those the store colors
Yep.
because I can't really see what's happening there.
Well, he calls it their racing stripe,
Oh, okay.
and those are the colors of their logo. And the reason why I put the purple in there is because I wanted to draw our attention to what's going on with the bikes hanging from the ceiling
Mm-hmm.
and what they are obscuring. The racing stripe around the store is a great idea. However, I'm going to point out a little bit in a couple slides here. It feels like there's something left on the table here because there's no branding in the store. Like we don't really know. We're not seeing anything in any of these pictures that indicates what store we're in. So it's hard to say that that's part of the theme of the store. It just kind of looks a little bit random.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, here's
I don't know what the best rule is with bikes on the ceiling, but they do seem to like make it feel, I feel kind of like busy or claustrophobic or something. I don't know.
both. Yeah. We're going to look at, I want to talk, that I mentioned to, let's see, this person's name is Fanny. And I mentioned to Fanny that the bikes on the ceiling were the low hanging fruit, and she really liked that.
Mm.
But the bikes on the ceiling are a big problem in terms of the questions that she has. People walk in the front door and they look like they want to get their bearings. It's because their bearings are very distorted by the bikes on the ceiling, partially. I circled the ceiling up here. These are themes that we're going to see in both stores. The ceiling up here, I mean, it's fine. It is what it is. It's been sprayed with insulation, it looks like, or fire proofing or something like that. But it's not really been embraced as part of the store. It looks kind of unfinished up there. And it's because the whole store is light and everything else is light, and we've got flat lighting. It just kind of blends, everything's blending together, and there's nothing that is making other things stand out. So I personally would probably try to take that ceiling and darken it a little bit to draw your eye down a little bit, nuke the bikes on the ceiling, which I know is the biggest pain in the butt ever, but it'll be worth it. I'm going to show you an example here in a second. Another thing that I noticed in here is the fixtures throughout the store are
Mhm.
chrome, and they're black, and they're wood, and they're gray, and they're red, and they're white. Like, there's no theme really going on. You can tell he's got some third-party fixtures, which are great in terms of value to a store usually, but not as great for the stores pushing their own brand forward to the customer.
Right.
Starts to look uh starts to look like you don't own the store, like all these brands own the store, kind of, not as professional.
Interesting.
All right, what do you think I'm going to say here?
Well, it looks very not like I like stripes. I like not I like more space. I like to more definition of product categories, and it just seems, I don't know, kind of a little hard to shop, maybe not very organized. I don't know. That's what I feel. I don't know. What do you tell me, Brian?
I see opportunities where I circled right here up high. There's not really much obscuring that racing stripe, honestly. There's not much on top of the racing stripe itself, where you could be putting branding or category signage to help people get their bearings inside the store. If they step in and see the view that we're looking at here, there is zero help
Mhm.
unless you can identify the product in the back by the look of it. And luckily we have skis back there, which are unique. But if this is all bikes and bike stuff, it's going to be tough to tell what's back there. But you wouldn't know that this racing stripe isn't obscured because of the bikes on the ceiling and how much you don't see from back here.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. I'm better oriented now in the store. I see what you're saying, Brian.
Another theme of what we're going to be talking about is the slat wall problems, which is it's a recurring theme in a number of our conversations, actually. And I don't ever say that you can't use slat wall. I just say that slat wall most often gets misused and not done well.
Brian,
So
I'm just picking up on so many things. I just ask you a question? I've got like my retailer hat on, right? And
yep.
I feel like we get all this inventory in, and our instinct is it has to all go on the floor. Maybe we need to just pile it out on the floor. But I'm looking at this and I'm seeing like even the clothing is hung so close together that it almost it's on top of each other. So like what's the rule with inventory? Do you want to
I'm
put it
so
on the
glad you mentioned it was like I scripted that then, but I
Oh,
did.
you didn't.
Um, the clothing back here, the problem with the clothing is that everything's on waterfalls and everything's facing forward. Okay. Um, you could fit a ton more product into this store if you merchandised better, or if you merchandised differently. If you take what's on the waterfalls here, maybe put them on a face out so it goes straight out as opposed to coming down. The waterfalls are not as much used these days for retailers because they take up more space. They occupy more vertical space than a face out does that comes straight out. And then
Mhm.
if you don't put anything facing to the side, like on a hang rail, if you took some of these things and turned them 90 degrees, you can fit twice as much in there, as long as you have some of the facings, happening like we see here, and some to the side, and then you just merchandise higher and lower than what they have going on. The
Mhm.
tires over here, this is not a very good use of space. It's got the slat wall problem of things just kind of meandering around and occupying this small 3-foot section of the wall, which
Gotcha.
we're going to talk more about. I don't want to
Excellent.
get too stuck on this yet.
Okay.
Um, down here, I'm noticing also throughout the whole store a lack of negative space, which is a very common thing that we run into all over the place. And that is, you're challenged by exactly what you just said. You feel like you need to get all the product out onto the floor. You've got, seasons change out and you've got too much product at times, and stuff starts to get jammed in there. At the same time, you want to make it fun and exciting. So you start sticking up posters and you you put up screens and you put up graphics and all that kind of stuff. And before you know it, there's no negative space inside the store at all. And the negative space, what I mean is open spots, like areas of a wall or displays that aren't as highly packed with product or visuals, so that your eye has a chance to rest and it doesn't look as intimidating. So when you come through the front door of this store, the bikes overhead are intimidating feeling. You don't see any white space anywhere. It's hard to pick out if there is anything category sign related. You can't see it. And I think those are the problems with the people stopping and not knowing how to get their bearings inside the store. So my question to you, based on what I have here, Heather, is do you suppose that given what we're talking about here, that more TV screens is going to be the solution?
Oh God, you're putting me on the spot. I think the solution is maybe reorganize the inventory so there's more clear paths to draw through, get
Yep.
those bikes off the floor. I don't think we need to go TVs yet. I think we just need to just kind of clutter and make it more inviting.
Exactly. Like in my opinion, at this point, what needs to happen first is the intimidation factor taken down and the negative space opened up before we add more clutter, which is what the TV screens would add to the mix. If we could clear out a space on the wall and make a beautiful display that includes a TV monitor, that would be awesome.
Right.
But just adding TV screens is only going to make that intimidation factor a little bit worse at this point. Okay, I want to show another store that had similar problems that we helped to tackle. Sound good?
I love this. I really enjoy looking at the photos. Oh, okay. This is okay. You say similar, but it looks different to me right off the bat.
Well, yeah, I mean, but same problems are happening.
Okay.
This store had bikes across the ceiling, had lots of different kinds of fixtures. They had put up some signage in there. A very similar kind of a ceiling.
Okay.
A little bit different color, but a very similar ceiling. They've got some classic bikes hanging around. They've got lighting that is flat and more garage-like than retail-like.
Brian, whenever I see your purple circles, I'm like, oh no, I don't know. I'm like, avoid the purple circles. I don't know.
Another thing that I want to point out when we're looking at this is look what the bikes on the ceiling do to the light. Like it feels like you've got a storm cloud over your head.
Mm-hmm.
It draws everything just like a big storm cloud does. It feels like everything's coming down and it's heavy above your head, and it darkens everything in the store. So look at the light inside this store, and then we're going to compare that to after, and you'll see how much brighter it feels. And a lot of it's because of, well, some of it's because of replacing the lights with better lights. A lot of it's because we took bikes off the ceiling.
So wait, you said after, so have these retailers already made some changes, Brian?
Yeah.
No way, really?
Years ago.
Oh,
This is the same exact store.
wow.
This is almost the same view as we see here.
Wow. If you're just listening to this, you do need to see these images. So definitely see that YouTube channel. Wow, that's incredible, Brian.
So what we did, I mean, look how much more open this and inviting that feels. Like you actually want to walk into this space and walk around and have fun looking at the great products. And look how much brighter everything feels. The pictures were taken at a very similar time of day. So it's not just light coming through the windows.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely a difference in not having the bikes on the ceiling, better light, better organization, some negative space, and some nice things that are, you know, there's like little things and big things and medium things and really big things. And it's not just a bunch of clutter.
Yeah. And I see what you're saying. Like if we look at the way that clothing was done in that photo, there's a lot of clothing on display there, but it's just done in a different way that it's more compact, but still compelling.
Yep. This is back to the old store before we got the bikes off the ceiling. And Well, step on that point again. I know how hard it is to get the bikes off the ceiling because you've got a lot of product and you feel like you need it close at hand in the store or you're not going to be able to sell it. We were able to accomplish it in this store. We got all the bikes off the ceiling and into different locations, back rooms. We merchandised the bikes in a more efficient manner in the new store. And they were far more successful after moving those bikes than they were when they had the bikes there. This is almost the same view as this one. So this
Wow.
is without bikes.
It's so dramatically different. And yeah, that is a pain point though. As a retailer, I'd be like, but Brian, where do you want me to put all the bikes? I need them there. Like now I need a storage facility or what? Like, so that's definitely something that I could.
We're heading into the second store here and we're going to be talking about this there too. Efficiently merchandising and maximizing the way that you merchandise the whole store, clothing, accessories, bikes, everything is how you get that space to be able to alleviate your problem. Everybody, not everybody, many stores feel all hemmed in by what they've got going on in their store and they don't feel like they have room to move. And it's because they're merchandising and they're putting products in the store so inefficiently that any amount of product is going to feel like a lot of product and you don't feel like you have any options. Shall we go on?
Yes.
All right then. Store 2, which is Spokes and Sprockets, run by Ronaldo. Ronaldo is the person that I talked to for sure. Opened in 95, and you can see it in the photos. 3,000 square feet-ish, plus a gallery across the street. And I really want to dig into that gallery across the street thing because it's a separate showroom for this store that's literally across the street. But I feel like it's a little bit of a side trip for what we're trying to talk about today. So let's leave that on the table. Maybe we circle back on that on another podcast.
Okay. All right.
In this store, the old guard, the people that have been there forever, resist change. But they're open to good new ideas and they don't want to lose the cool DNA of the original store. Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you were successful, you get kind of locked in and you love the store. You don't want to change things just for the sake of changing things. It's in a great cycling town, like a really great cycling town that you would recognize if I said the name. What once was trendy and thriving is now feeling dated and hard to change. The painted slat wall. This, by the way, is what did I say? Their name was Ronaldo. This is Ronaldo's words. The painted slat wall seems like it might be a problem. And she wanted to know is Ronaldo a man or a woman? I think it's a man, isn't it? Is it the floor plan or simply the dated look that's holding us back?
I cannot wait to see images. Okay, let's go. Come on.
All right, we're going to go in. Okay, I'm going to start outside this one.
Oh, wow.
What we're looking at here is a service entrance. And by the way, I love what they've done. I obscured the name here.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the hand painted on the wall, pointing at the door. I think that's really fun. I think the building has got character and I love that part of it.
It's so cool. Like, look at that garage door.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is like sexy stuff. However, there is a challenge here that I just wanted to bring up since this is such a good example of it. They've put this entrance for service way off on the side of their building. That means that their everyday customers know about this entrance. And when they come in, they go through that door, walk about 4 steps to the service counter, and then they leave retracing their same first 4 steps. Nothing's drawing them through the front of the store to see all the fun new stuff that's inside the store. Which, this is great for efficiency. I'm sure on a busy Saturday, this is an awesome thing, but it's worth taking into consideration what happens as a result of having those very important customers only go through that door and not get the opportunity to see really great stuff in the store
Mm-hmm.
because they're not being forced to walk through the store at all.
That is a question that comes up a lot, like separate service entrance. Is that a, positive, a negative? Lots of considerations there.
Generally speaking, I recommend against it.
Okay.
I know about the efficiency. I understand that part of it, but generally I just recommend against it because, like the grocery store could put the milk right by the front door. Maybe milk is a terrible example these days, but something that's very commonly grabbed, they could put right by the front door and you'd never have to go into the store. But they don't. They stick that stuff in the furthest back portion of the store. So you have to walk through the whole thing and grab all of the Twinkies and the fruit and the meat and all that as you're walking through.
I've noticed that. And they also put like the beer and the soda and all the stuff right over there too. So it's like, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, here's another thing that's a little bit of a side trip here, but it's a great example of what I say a lot. I want us to look at the windows here.
Okay.
People picture in their head when they're making displays for shops like this that face outside, and you think that your display in the window is going to be impactful. But the fact is, during the day, your front windows are all reflections.
Oh,
Like you can see a product in there,
yeah.
but it's not impactful. I mean, you're seeing the tree across the street more than you're seeing the product in the window.
I don't know if those hats are actually in the window or on someone taking the picture outside, to be
or is there a ghost in here? I don't know, but it's interesting to look at. The time when the store front windows will shine literally is at night, in the evening and at night. So that means lighting in the front windows is super duper important. Like lighting in the front windows does nothing during the day because you can't overpower the sun.
Gotcha.
But at nighttime, this thing, and I don't know what they have in there, if they have this or not, but if they haven't lit this area and that area over there at night, they should. That's what you leave on at night because that's what would make this storefront sing at night. It would be beautiful. Okay, so now we're going to walk through the front door. It's looking kind of familiar as a bike shop that we've all seen before, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, I'm seeing like lots of grab and go items, nutrition. The floor is like wood, kind of looks a little dated, but kind of looks cool at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Still like, I don't know, maybe I don't know where to go a little bit. I don't know. I feel like the left-hand side of the store is a little closed off to me. I don't know.
We're going to dig into this stuff. Okay, so the stuff I've circled here. One is, we'll talk about all of these things. We're going to talk about more, but there's these cases that don't have the glass in the front anymore that they're using as display / cash wrap counters in the store. At this moment, I just want to point your attention to them so you look at them. Over here, what we have going is some fixtures that are too high. They're in the middle of the store and they're too high, and it does exactly what you just said, which is makes it feel closed off, and it also leaves what's behind it as a complete mystery.
Mm-hmm.
It would be preferable to at least turn the fixtures so that you can see past them better into the rest of the store, or shorten them, or do both, maybe re-merchandise things. And then we have bikes along the top of the shop there, kind of museum-like. Gonna look at this little space here. Think about, as we're looking at this, your navigation. You said it when we started looking at these pictures. It's tough to figure out quite how to navigate this.
Right.
Same problem as the last store. There's no category signs. There's nothing back here that says helmets or socks or whatever's back there. You do have a clear line of sight there, but that line of sight's a little wasted because there's nothing there. Which is also part of the problem, the vertical space being used, and I mean from the floor to the ceiling. Are we using that vertical space the best way that we possibly can? Cricket, the store owner that I talked to, acknowledges that they're not using the vertical space very well, but she was curious about what we might recommend to fix that problem. Okay, I've obscured the identities of these people a little bit. I was shocked that Paul Rudd and Brad Pitt are working in this store.
I know. Yeah, me too.
You know, you'd think with those guys in there that there'd be a crowd, but not really. Okay, so look at the display cases again, and even look at body language.
Mm-hmm.
And look at what's behind it. There's important merchandise behind the counter, behind the 4 counters that stop you from getting to that wall.
Right.
And there is some merchandise, you know, so that it's valuable space to merchandise there. There's merchandising happening there,
Yep.
but completely underutilized because they're only able to use one side because the back side is employee side. And by the way, the employee side is where your product on the wall is. So that's a large problem that should be fixed.
Yeah. I love all these images. I love looking inside stores, and there's so many different retailers and there's so many different ways they do things. Oh, this one has a cone too. There's a cone on the floor. All right, I'll let you keep going. Sorry.
Okay, I'm pointing you to the texture on the wall, which is yellow paint. Which has been there for a long time. And you know, you can tell it's kind of got a faux kind of texture to it that's happening there. There's a lot of visual cues in this that say that this store hasn't been addressed for a long time, or that it hasn't been loved on in a long time. And that kind of a thing, because it's a kind of a dated look, it just says to the customer right away, the store hasn't changed in 20 years, has it? Which is sometimes good and a lot of times bad, because you're trying to push forward brand new, swanky, exciting, you know, cutting edge product, but yet you're putting in a setting that feels dated. So this is one of the things that I would address, and Jesus is planning to address in this store. Down here, we've got a bike rack that is efficient because it holds a lot of bikes made out of lumber. And I just want to point out, or raise the question, I guess, of easy versus good in terms of merchandising these bikes. This is easy and it's efficient, but is it good? Like, is it flattering the product, or is it just simply getting product on the floor?
Right.
And I would say that there are ways to do this in ways that are easy and good and flattering to the product, at least more so than what's going on there now.
All right.
All right, so here we have a clothing display. This is the one that's in the middle of the floor. And I put the arrow there because from that other view that we looked at in the beginning, you could not see the other merchandise that's back here at all. The height of this fixture and the way it's turned is a complete visual dam that hides everything back here. And it is kind of fun to walk around a store and see brand new things. You're always going to have that for sure. But in this size store, given what they're doing, it would probably be more advantageous to open it up a bit, turn things, lower the fixtures, use the wall space better so that you can see through the store and get your bearings quicker.
So many pictures, so awesome.
We've got a lot of things going on there. Okay, so remember the 4 counters that we have. You can see them down this wall, and the space behind them has got product. So, I mean, talk about the efficiency thing again. Here we have the slat wall problem that we started to talk about, which I'm going to show you even better in a second. Not very well merchandised, not very efficiently merchandised. You've got stuff that is clearly employee only kind of stuff back there at the bottom of the merchandise. You've got a counter with product on it. And then the backside is employee space. So that's very confusing for the customer. No one would ever want to walk around this to go back and look at those wheels. Like it just is, it's not intuitive. They would feel like they're intruding or like they're doing the wrong thing. So we gotta, in my opinion, we have to address that and turn this into customer shoppable space and not a bunch of employee space that's being intruded upon by product. What do you guess I'm going to say here?
Yeah, trip hazard and like way too many packs, or it's just a lot. It's a lot.
It feels like a lot, but it's because that problem that we're talking about the inefficient merchandising. We've got small bags and they're only 2 high on that whole wall. This kind of bag, you can fit 5 vertically. You know, not in all cases, like there's some bigger things up there, but you can get a lot more vertically and use your space down below better. I circled over here because I said to Tyson, the person that I talked to, I said, "Is that carpet?" And he said, "Oh my God, you're right. There is carpet there." This carpet has been there since day one, I think. And it's just like, so you can tell from all the pictures, it's just worn down, completely flat. It's another one of those signs to the customer that you haven't addressed things in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, such an easy thing to do, even if you just replace the carpet itself in the same spot, so you don't have to address the whole floor. Replace that, refresh that, so it feels like you're paying attention. This is the opposite end of the same wall and the same problems happening. I wanted to draw your attention to what's happening down here towards the floor, which is nothing, and what's happening above here, which is very little. So we've got that issue where we're merchandising a strip down the center inefficiently. You haven't got much space there and you're doing it inefficiently. So this little bit of product that they have is going to fill the whole wall. Whereas if you merchandise it more efficiently, better, and better for the customer, like more exciting for the customer, then you're going to have more space. All right, so here we have a diagram that illustrates what I'm talking about. The 2 gray boxes are a wall, a fake wall, and I haven't measured anything. I'm just visually kind of making this make sense. We have on the top example, we have slat wall that's inefficiently merchandised going in that horizontal strip. Makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so there's 27 of these boxed products, whatever those things are on that display. And then down here is a different kind of a fixture system. This can be done with slat wall, but it's just very rarely done with slat wall. It's definitely possible. If you change up your plan there, go higher, go lower, and merchandise more organized, it changes the amount of product that we can get in there entirely. So the number of products that we have on the slat wall is 27. The number of products that we have down below are 72. But it's this exact same size space, the same size products. We can just get so much more in there.
That's crazy when you show it that way. It's awesome.
So it's kind of like this. Like if you go to your produce section, this is what the slat wall looks like a lot of the time.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily bad. It's like a farmer's market kind of a thing where things are plopped in there, but it just feels a little disorganized, a little chaotic, and not very efficient versus something like this where it is more organized. Bikes up high. The only note that I want to make here is I love the history. I love having things that customers can look at that conjure up memories, things like that. But we're using a lot of space up high for those products, and I'm thinking that there might be a better solution. Like maybe you pull most of the bikes down and you highlight 3 bikes each month in a special section with great signage that tells the story of those bikes so that you actually make more of it. Because I guarantee you, they've forgotten all of the bikes that are up here, and very few people, if anybody, addresses them. They're just kind of there, and they're just taking up space. And when you go a little bit higher with your merchandising, it'll start to make more sense to get those a little bit out of the way, do better artwork, do some more signage, things like that high, and it will serve their needs better.
Pretty store. It is a pretty store. Like tweaks, like you're saying, it could really
Right.
be not like not a whole remodel, just some easy, well, not easy, but strategic tweaks.
The person that I talked to is on it. Like she's already made a lot of good choices, bringing it from where it was to here. And she's sensing the things that we're talking about, but she hadn't gotten down to how she's going to do it.
Awesome.
So this is interesting. There's like a leopard or a zebra print on the ceiling there that we don't know why it's there. Here we have the inefficient slat wall problem again happening. Down here, I'm looking at that painted slat wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just haggard. It's been beat up for years and years. So it's time to replace it or at least repaint it.
Yep.
It's a sign that we don't care.
Little things, but it goes a long way, right? What is it,
Exactly.
a
It's
light?
a little thing, but it's a huge thing. Like that says to the customer, we don't care that much about this.
Right.
The light over here is another one of those things, kind of like the yellow paint on the wall that says, we haven't addressed this in a long time. It's a dated looking fixture. There's more of the same kind of stuff happening here. We have coffee sacks attached to the ceiling, which on one hand add kind of a really interesting texture to the space. On the other hand, it doesn't make any sense and just adds to the visual clutter and the confusion. And oh, by the way, the product on the wall here is not very efficiently merchandised again. So they filled up this whole big wall with tires that should take up a lot less space.
So many pictures, accidental. What is this? 20 colors? What is going on here?
I wanted to bring up, like I am looking at this floor. Easy peasy. Like if you just refinish this floor, it says we're paying attention to the space.
Mm-hmm.
This is horribly worn and outdated. So let's fix that. It's not a hard fix to do. I counted about 20 different colors in this space. And if we pared down that so that the colorful products can stand out, that would be more advantageous too. And I wanted to bring up accidental versus strategic because a lot of the things that happen in this kind of a space feel accidental, like, oh, I didn't know that happened, versus feeling strategic, like we placed this exactly in your line of sight, Joe customer, because we care about what you're looking at in our store. All right. I know we're running short on time, so
I think we have like 2 minutes left, Brian.
no, it's fine. We're there because this is the last picture from this store I'm going to show. What I wanted to show is another store again that is in a very similar market, just a few hours away driving time from this store, that has solved the kinds of problems that we're talking about. This is another store that carries a lot of mountain bike kind of product. We did things like we built special displays. We created some great negative space in that store. The textures are very limited. We have a few colors in the store. It's very limited. The merchandising in the store goes from the floor up to these posts here are 8 feet tall. And this is definitely above eye line, but you can still reach it to pull that off the hook there. Wheels going up that high are no problem at all. So this is a nice efficient use of that same kind of space. Putting some clothing up on the wall that goes higher so you can stack it higher, light these things. Notice the pared down color palette so that the color palette of the store doesn't challenge the product. Stuff nicely merchandised, very organized, and densely packed into a small space. Makes a lot of sense. The helmet and shoes being very organized, very predictably placed with very consistent signage is awesome stuff. And last picture, a way to make these displays feel very intentional. They're not hard, but they are very effective at flattering the product that we've got on them there.
Some great tips, Brian, some super great tips. And I love that the images, retailers can look at those. Brian, again, you outdid it. I'm so thankful to the 2 retailers who gave us permission to use the photos of their store to run through some great ideas, some easy strategic things that won't take a ton of time, but good ways to get them started. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. This is great, huh? It was kind of fun to dig into those.
I always feel like we could talk for a half hour and then it's like an hour later and we're still into it because we're both so like, we both get it so much. We love it and we love helping.
Fault. It's my fault. You don't make us go long. It's always me blabbing. I'm so sorry.
It's awesome. There's so much to cover. So if you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, we want to help you. Send us your images, send us your video. It's design@nbda.com. Brian, thanks so much. That wraps it up for today. Stay amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Bicycle Retail Radio. This podcast is designed specifically for the bicycle industry, dedicated to strengthening our retailers and cycling community. If it is your first episode, we urge you to take the time and listen to our past episodes.